I'd like to welcome all of you all back to our applied Bhagavatam classes. After a very long time, almost close to about 2 months now. But hopefully, we will make up for the loss of all these months of classes in the next few weeks. So, the last time we met, we were in the last part of the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. We completed the first canto of Bhagavatam. So, today we are starting the second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. So, I would like to welcome all of you all to the second canto of Bhagavatam. This is probably one of the smallest cantos of Bhagavatam, but it's also one of the most technical cantos of Bhagavatam. So, the second canto, the fifth canto, ninth canto are very technical in nature. So, I'm going to try my best to make it as simple and as relevant and as applicable as possible to all of you all. Obviously, which means that I will be not getting into too many technical details of the second canto, but I'll be looking at more of the learnings. Okay. Of course, I'm going to try to do a balance between what's technical and what's application based, and see what we can learn from it. The second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam is actually an answer to one of Parikshit's questions. If you remember, the last part of the first canto of Bhagavatam, which it ended with the question of Parikshit Maharaj. Parikshit's question to Shukadeva Goswami at that point in time was, he said, please let me know, what should a person who is about to die do? What should a person hear, chant, remember and worship? And also, what should he not do? This is what Parikshit wanted to know from Shukadeva Goswami at the end of the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. So basically, Parikshit, if you remember, he is in the last phase of his life. He has 7 days to live. And naturally, somebody who has been told that he has only 7 days left. Obviously, the question is, what do I do in these 7 days? What do I focus on? Death is someone that steals away everything that you've earned all your life, right? So practically, you spend your entire life first learning, and then earning, and then accumulating, and then at the end, when you feel that you have actually achieved something substantial in your life, suddenly death takes it all away, isn't it? It just goes away, Therefore, one of the names of the Lord, he is known as Hari. The word Hari means the one who takes away everything. Therefore, we say Hari Bol. Actually, he is only going to take away everything anyways, So, apparently, Hari seems to be taking away everything. He steals everything from us. But the interesting part of this, of Hari, is that he not only steals our wealth at the time of death, but while we are alive, he can also potentially steal our hearts. He can potentially steal our minds. And therefore, when Vamanadev comes and takes his 3 steps of land and places the 3rd step on Bali Maharaj, a lot of people make this conclusion that Vamanadev, Krishna comes into our life like that dwarf, enters in a small way into your life, and then he takes these giant steps and takes everything away from you. That's the interpretation that a lot of people give about Vamanadev. But actually, the right way of looking at it is that when Krishna takes away everything from you, when Vamanadev took away everything from Bali Maharaj, actually, in the end, Vamanadev gave himself to Bali Maharaj. That people conveniently forget. So materially, he has taken away everything, all the wealth, all the property, everything, including Bali's life also he has taken. He has kept the last step on his head. But after that story gets over, there's another story that begins. Vamanadev becomes the gatekeeper of Bali Maharaj forever. After taking away everything, Vamanadev becomes a servant of Bali. So which means Hari takes away everything, but there is no loss for us. He in fact gives us much more than what we can ever deserve and what we can ever expect. So in that mood, Parikshit is wanting to know what is the duty of a person who is about to die. And Shukadeva Goswami begins by giving two very important instructions to Parikshit Maharaj, which is like the beginning of the first canto, second canto of Bhagavatam. Here is the second canto, first chapter, third verse. Nidraya hriyate naktam vyavayena cha vavaya divacharate haya rajan kutumba bharanena va. So the verses start from below to higher. It's like following a hierarchy like that. Okay. So in this verse, Shukadeva Goswami, actually this verse is one of the very, very famous verses of Srimad Bhagavatam. If you have heard enough classes of Bhagavatam, you'll remember this verse. At least you would have heard it somewhere. So this verse actually can be seen in a little negative light because this is a very heavy verse. Shukadeva Goswami is talking about what one should not do in life. So Parikshit Maharaj is asking two questions. What should a person do and what should a person not do at the time of death, the last phase of life? So Shukadeva Goswami is saying the first thing a person should not do is just sleep and enjoy life. Don't spend time like this. So basically he is saying that night time is passed in sleeping and enjoying, and daytime is passed in earning money and getting yourself a name and fame, basically. So he's saying this is not what life is meant for. And then Shukadeva Goswami says, Deha patya kalatradisho Atma sainye swasatsvapi Tesham pramatto nidanam Pashyannapi na pashyati. So he's saying people who are devoid of Atma Tattva, who don't have a deeper understanding of life, they are attached to the fallible soldiers. What is the meaning of fallible soldiers? Here, Shukadeva Goswami is talking about three things: body, children, and wife. He considers these three to be fallible soldiers. Why does he use the word fallible soldiers? The reason he uses fallible soldiers is because most people feel that these three things are everything a person aspires for, right? Taking care of the body, taking care of the family, taking care of children. And the aspiration is that these three things will take care of us when we need them the most. They're called fallible soldiers because you never know. The body that you're so much dependent on, never know what kind of issues body will give. Throughout life, perfect health. But when you need your health the most, suddenly the body behaves as if it doesn't know you only, And you start wondering, is this the same body that I loved all my life, Children, same thing. You think that you're doing so much for the children, literally slogging it out. And when you need them the most, suddenly they're gayab. You don't know where they went, All seem to be very busy in their own worlds, isn't it? So the whole idea, Shukadeva Goswami is calling these as fallible soldiers. So what he's trying to tell us is essentially this: be careful where you invest your energy and time. Don't invest all your energy and time in fallible soldiers. Don't invest all your... See, I'm not saying that we should not invest any energy in these fallible soldiers. We need to invest. But don't invest so much energy that you have no time left for something else. You have no time left for your spiritual life. You have no time left for higher pursuits in life. Find a way to balance. Find a way to balance your energies. The second thing that Shukadeva Goswami talks about, so one, he says, don't invest your energy in fallible soldiers. And then he says, develop absorption in the Supreme Lord. To help us understand this, here is a very beautiful verse that Shukadeva Goswami speaks about. Tasmat Bharata Sarvatma Bhagavan Ishvaro Hari Shrotavya Kirtitavyascha Smartavyascha Bhayam. He says, O descendant of King Bharata, one who desires to be free from all miseries must hear about, glorify, and also remember the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the Super Soul, the controller, and savior of all miseries. So essentially, what he's trying to say is that don't invest 100% of your energy in the fallible soldiers, but spend certain amount of energy on a daily basis in absorbing yourself in something higher. And this whole series from the whole of the first, second, and third chapter of second canto is about how to develop that absorption. So essentially, in sutra he finishes what he wants to say, and then he goes deeper and how to develop that absorption. There's a very beautiful verse in the Niti Shastra which actually is very instructive. This word says, Nirmat Sara Nimantranotsavam Vipra Gavo Navatrunotsavam Patyu Sayuta Bharya Aham Krishnam Ranotsavam. So in this verse, it talks about what is a festival for different people. So he says, Nimantran. Nimantran means invitation, right? Utsava Vipra. Nimantran Utsava Vipra. What is the meaning of Nimantran Utsava Vipra? If you want a Brahmana who is living life by either begging or by very simple means, for a Brahmana, invitation for a feast is a festival, is a joy. They love invitation for feast, If you invite our brahmacharis in our ashram for a big feast, it's a celebration, everybody loves it. So for Brahmanas, being invited to a feast is a celebration. Gavo Navatrunotsavam. For a cow, fresh grass is a celebration. When cow sees fresh grass sprouting, the cow becomes super happy. For the cow, that's a festival. And then it says, Patyut Sahayuta Bharya. It says, when a husband has come back from a foreign land, that's a festival for a wife. And then it says, Aham Krishna Ranotsavam. So this devotee who has composed this particular verse, he says, for me, what is a festival? Krishna Ranotsavam. That means when I hear stories of Krishna from the Mahabharata, Ranotsavam, he says, that's festival for me, basically. So essentially, for different people, different things are festivals. For somebody, wearing a new dress may be a festival, For somebody, some kind of an appraisal in the office or some promotion, that may be a festival. For somebody passing an exam, that may be a festival. For different people, it's different festivals. But for a devotee, whenever a devotee gets to hear about Krishna, hear Krishna Katha, that's a festival for a devotee. It's called Ranotsavam. So essentially, Shukadeva Goswami is trying to inspire Parikshit Maharaj to move away from the fallible soldiers. Right now, Parikshit is in a situation where nobody can help him. He has 7 days to live. Who can help him? His money can't help him. His family can't help him. His wives can't help him. His children can't help him. His power and position can't help him. Nothing can help him. So at this point in time, Shukadeva Goswami is inspiring him to look for somebody else to help you. And then at this point, he says, what is the point in having a long life? Shukadeva Goswami is telling Parikshit Maharaj. He says, what is the point in having a long life? Instead of having a long life, it is better to have one moment of complete consciousness. And then Shukadeva Goswami tells a story. This is the smallest story in the entire Bhagavatam. The Bhagavatam has 24,000 verses. And you know how many verses this particular story has? One verse. In one verse, Shukadeva Goswami is telling a full story to Parikshit Maharaj. Amazing. This is the smallest story in the entire Srimad Bhagavatam. So in this verse, he says, Katvango nama rajarshi Radnyat Vetyam Iha Yushaha Muhurta Sarvam Utsrijya Gatavan Abhayam Harim. He says, there was a king named Katwang Maharaj. And one day, this king asked his, astrologers, asked the Brahmanas in his kingdom, how much time do I have to live? And that astrologer told him, you have 1 moment to live. What an accurate astrologer, right? He tells the king, you have 1 moment to live. And Katwang Maharaj, that very moment, he sat down, absorbed himself in Krishna and perfected his life. Shukadeva Goswami is telling this story to Parikshit Maharaj and telling him, you at least have 7 days. You should be happy. This Katwang Maharaj had only 1 moment and yet he perfected his life. You have 7 full days. You have unlimited moments. And with this, Shukadeva Goswami is inspiring Parikshit to look for absorption in that 7 days that you have left. The question is, how to develop that absorption? In Sanskrit, the word for absorption is called dharana. There are different stages of the process of yoga. It's called the Ashtanga yoga process. And it starts with yam, niyam, like that. And it goes in pratyahara. One by one it goes. And then it comes to a point where the word, the limb that is used of Ashtanga yoga, it's called a dharana. The word dharana means absorption. So, Shukadeva Goswami is now training Parikshit to develop absorption in the Lord. Now the question is, somebody who has been a king, somebody who's been living a life of great opulence, and somebody who's at the peak of his youth, peak of his power, peak of his career, how does that person develop absorption? Shukadeva Goswami describes a 4-step process for Parikshit to develop absorption. And these are the 4 steps that all of us can also use to develop absorption in our own lives. So if you see in the sheet at the back, we're talking about these 4 steps of developing absorption. Level 1, or the first step, is called absorption in the Virat Roop, or the material form of the Lord. This is talking about seeing Krishna around us. So, Shukadeva Goswami is telling Parikshit Maharaj that one should meditate on the limbs of Vishnu one after another without being deviated from anything else, into anything else. And the mind has to be completely absorbed in Vishnu. Now, for all of you who have been trying to meditate and absorb yourself in Vishnu, how difficult it is, isn't it? Have you ever been in a position where you can say that I have developed complete absorption in Vishnu? It's impossible, isn't it? So Parikshit Maharaj is also in a similar situation like us. Obviously, he is much advanced compared to us because he has seen Krishna himself. He is the relative of the Pandavas. But yet, Parikshit is struggling with absorption. So Shukadeva Goswami gives a step-by-step process on how to develop that absorption. When we try to develop a connection with Krishna, try to develop our absorption, it is not going to be an easy process because it is not a process that people want us to follow. In fact, in the beginning, when you try to start becoming absorbed, there will be a lot of people around you who will make fun of you. They will not take you seriously at all. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, there is the story of a Brahmana who was from South India, who tries to absorb himself in the verses of Bhagavad Gita. And as he is absorbing himself, there are so many people around him who are making fun of him. And this particular section of the Chaitanya Charitamrita is a very interesting section because it gives one simple sutra, one verse in this section is a verse that teaches us how to be absorbed in spite of all the mess that is around us, people making fun of us. So in this verse says, Keho ase केह निंदा ताहा नाही माने, अविष्ट होए गीता पढ़े आनंदिते मने. So this verse has a secret to how to absorb ourselves. This verse says, Keho ase. That means when this Brahmana, he was studying the Gita, he was trying to read the Gita, there were a lot of people that were laughing at him. Keho ase. And Keho ninde. That means they were not just people laughing at him, there were people criticizing him, finding faults in him. And then Taha Nahi Mani. It says, though people were laughing at him, though people were criticizing him, this Brahmana was not at all paying attention to them. The question is, we also want to do that. We also don't want to get affected by the criticism and the fun that people make of us while we are practicing serious spiritual life. The question is, how to not be affected? Because we get affected by everything, isn't it? So the next part of this verse is the answer. So he says, Avishta huye Gita pade anandita mane. It says, Avishta huye Gita pade. That means he was reading Gita with so much absorption and his heart was totally into it. So when one's heart is totally into something, it doesn't matter what people say. It doesn't matter what people think. It doesn't matter what people, make fun of. Because your heart is totally into it. Now, just to give you some mundane examples of how we end up doing that in some cases in our own lives. Like for example, there is a boy that wants to marry a particular girl. Everybody around him is telling him, no, don't marry her, very bad girl. This guy, no matter how many people say 100 things, can you change this fellow's mind? Can you change what he's thinking? Impossible, isn't it? That's absorption. Just to give a simple way of putting it. In America, there was an elevator, like a huge building, and the elevator was going really slow, and people were complaining like crazy. The speed of the elevator. And then the elevator company, they just put mirrors on all the four walls. People stop complaining. So much absorption. Looking at themselves and they're feeling so good. Wish the speed of the elevator can go even slower, So much absorption. When children go to play, you see kids play. What absorption! They get hurt, they're bleeding, they're sweating, they're like panting, but they'll not come back. Isn't it? What kind of absorption is that? Isn't it? So, here, the whole idea is that when your heart is into something, then absorption is very natural. It's very easy for you to become absorbed. Similarly, when you start thinking from a spiritual perspective in that way, that means when your heart is into chanting, when your heart is into kirtan, when your heart is into hearing Hari Katha, when your heart is into reading Hari Katha, when your heart is into, absorbing yourself in dham and holy places, then it doesn't matter whether it's cold or hot. It doesn't matter whether it is, getting up early in the morning or, staying up late in the night. No matter what, we will not give up. That's what is needed for us to be absorbed. So Parikshit Maharaj is wanting to be absorbed because he has less time now. He has only 7 days. Katwang Maharaj has only 1 moment. For all of us, how much time do we have? Unfortunately, we think we have 20 years, 30 years. Some astrologer told us we're going to live for another 30, 40 years. We strongly believe them, isn't it? And we somehow feel convinced that I'm going to live for really long. And that's why we postpone absorption. That's why we postpone being intense in our spiritual journeys. So Shukadeva Goswami is telling us, don't believe in all fallible soldiers, including your astrologer, including all your predictions, including your doctors. They are all fallible soldiers. Whatever they say may not be true. Better get absorbed. So Shukadeva Goswami, the first step, he is introducing all of us towards how to absorb ourselves in Krishna is through the Virat Roop. Visheshastasya dehoyam stavitascha staviyasam yatredam vyajate vishvam bhutam bhavyam bhavachasat. So Shukadeva Goswami is saying, this gigantic manifestation of the phenomenal material world as a whole is the personal body of the Absolute Truth, wherein the universal resultant past, present and future of material time is experienced. So, if you want to absorb yourself in Krishna, the first and the easiest way to absorb yourself in Krishna is look around you. Everywhere is Krishna only. And then Shukadeva Goswami gives an elaborate explanation of how every single thing in this material world is the limb of Krishna's body. I'm just going to read a little bit of the description that Shukadeva Goswami is talking about. He says, the Patala Loka is the bottom of the feet of the Lord. The Rasatala is the heel and the toes of the Lord. The Mahatala is the ankles of the Lord. The Talatala is the calves of the Lord. The Sutala is the knees of the Lord. The Vitala is the lower part of the two thighs. And Atala is the upper part of the two thighs. The Mahitala, which is the earth planet, is the hips of the Lord. The Bhuvar Loka, the outer space, is the navel of the Lord. The Swargaloka is the chest of the Lord. The Maharloka is the neck of the Lord. The Janaloka is the mouth or the face of the Lord. The Tapaloka is the forehead. And the Satyaloka is the head of the Lord. And then he says, the arms of the Lord is Devatas headed by Indra. The ears of the Lord is the Dig Devatas and the organ of hearing. The The mouth of the Lord is a blazing fire. The eye pits of the Lord is the outer space. The eyeballs of the Lord is the sun. The eyelids of the Lord is a day and night. So basically, whenever you see any of these things in this world, you can remember Krishna only. The movement of the eyebrows is the abode of Brahma. The palate is Varuna, the ocean. Tongue is taste, the juice of everything. The cerebral passage is the Vedic hymns. The jaws of the teeth is Yamraj. The two rows of the teeth is the art of affection. The smile of the Lord is, the glance of the Lord is the samsara, the entire universe. The upper portion of the lip of the Lord is modesty. The chin of the Lord is hankering. The breast of the Lord is religion. The back of the Lord is irreligion. The genitals of the Lord is Brahma. The abdomen of the Lord is the universe. That stacks of bones are the hills and the mountains. Rivers are the veins of the Lord. Trees are the hair of the Lord. Wind is the breath of the Lord. The passing time is his movement or walking. The reaction of the three modes is his activity. The clouds are the hair on the head of the Lord. The twilight is the dress of the Lord. The moon is the mind of the Lord. The Mahatattva is the chitta, the consciousness of the Lord. The ego is Rudra. The nails of the Lord are horses, mules, camels, and elephants. The hips of the Lord are all the wild animals and quadruples. The artistic sense of the Lord is birds. The deliberate intelligence of the Lord is Manu. The residence of the Lord is humanity. The musical ability of the Lord are the Gandharvas, Vidyadharas, Chanaras, and Apsaras. The power of the Lord is the demonic soldiers. The face of the Lord are the Brahmanas. The arms of the Lord are the Kshatriyas. The thighs of the Lord are the Vaishyas. And the feet of the Lord are the Sudras. The prescribed duties are sacrifices with ingredients and devatas. So now if you look at this is a very elaborate description of the Virat Roop of the Lord. Now, the Virat Roop of the Lord can be seen in so many ways. And there are so many descriptions of the Virat Roop of the Lord. In the Bhagavad Gita, we find some descriptions where there is different personalities throughout the body of the Virat Roop. And here's another description of nature. So when you go on your next holiday, The trees of the Lord are the hair of the Lord, isn't it? So when you look at clouds, you can remember, the head, the hair on the head of the Lord. So everything that you see around, you see beautiful rivers flowing. You remember these are the veins of the Lord. So this is the way in which we can absorb ourselves in the Virat Roop of the Lord. So which means everywhere around us we can see Krishna if you want to see him. Something simple. If you are, in Bombay, anywhere, we have, 5-6 temples now in Bombay, right? You're stuck in traffic jam. You can meditate. You can think of whether you are going in the direction of which temple. So if you are stuck in the traffic jam towards Borivali area, you can think that you are going towards, Mira Road Temple. If you're stuck in a traffic jam towards South Bombay, you can think that you're coming towards, ISKCON Chowpatty. So everything in one sense, if you look at it from a higher dimensional point of view, it's the body of the Lord only. So rather than being stuck from a lower point of view, look at it from a much higher perspective. There's another very beautiful way of looking at Virat Roop, which is a very interesting story, or rather a very interesting thought that I would like to share with you all, which will enhance your way of looking at the Virat Roop of the Lord and will make the meditation of the Virat Roop a little sweeter. So the Lord appears in many forms and many colors, isn't it? And interestingly, the Lord appears in colors according to the age in which He appears. In Satya Yuga, the Lord appears in white color because the people of Satya Yuga were very pure. Their hearts were very pure. So the Lord also took a white form. And in Treta Yuga, people had a little Kama and Krodha. He took a little green form. And then in Dwapar Yuga, people had more laziness. So he took a little black form. And in Kali Yuga, the extent of laziness became extreme. So he decided to keep that black form. So now, there are many reasons the Acharyas give why the Lord takes the black form. Why the Sham Varna? Why the Lord appears in a blackish form, as the Supreme Lord. There are 4 reasons why the Lord takes the black form. The first reason is because the Lord is inspired by the color of Mahalakshmi's eyes. The eyes of Mahalakshmi are blackish in color. The Lord feels that color is beautiful. I want to take the color of, Mahalakshmi's eyes. So much of compassion, so much of karuna in it. And the second reason was because the Lord when from the navel of the Lord, this lotus appeared, and on top of the lotus, Brahmaji appeared. There were a lot of bumblebees that were hovering around the lotus. And many of the bumblebees came and sat on the body of the Lord. And the color of the bumblebees, came to the Lord also. And then the third reason is that the Lord wears Tulsi Mala. And, Tulsi Mala, when you wear it for a long period of time, it becomes blackish in color, right? So that's the color of the Lord. It takes on the color of the Tulsi Mala that, it turns blackish. And the fourth reason is that the Yamuna river is blackish in color. And because the Lord has bath in the Yamuna river regularly, He attains the form of the color of Yamuna. But the Acharyas explain there is another amazing reason why the Lord is black in color, which is connected to the Virat Roop of the Lord. So it is said that the Lord created this world for a reason. And the reason the Lord created this world is so that all of us, Jivatmas, can practice all the forms of devotion, Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, and eventually surrender to the Lord and reach the Lord. So, the Lord, when He created this world, and He created all the facilities in this world for a living entity to reach Him, for a living entity to practice bhakti. After creating this world, the Lord became so blissful that He became black. It is explained that when someone is extremely happy, that color that comes out with the extreme joy and extreme happiness, the color that manifests is that Sham Varna color, is the color of that blackish rain cloud basically. And the Lord became so happy thinking that I have created enough things in this world for the living entity to perfect his life. That thought made the Lord very happy. Of course, now the question is whether we're using that thing for the right purpose or not, that's a different question, But what the Lord has created this world for is so that we can absorb ourselves in Him. So if you go around the world, anywhere in the world, wherever you see anything beautiful, it was created so that we can remember Him. It was created so that we can absorb ourselves in Him. So if you ever see a beautiful ocean, that purpose of creating that ocean is so that you can remember Him. If you see a beautiful river flowing, the purpose of creating the river is to remember Him, absorb yourself in Him. So if you see anytime anything beautiful in this world, you should simply remember this. That the purpose of it being created is so that you can remember Him and feel great joy. I was coming back from Nepal in this flight. I was sitting on the window, and when the flight took off from Nepal, Kathmandu, at some point, on the right side, I saw something unbelievably beautiful. I don't know if any of you all have seen the Himalayas. Oh my God, it's the most spectacular vision I ever saw in my life. The peak of the Himalayas. We saw the peak of the Himalayas right next to us in a flight. I was thinking, this is Krishna. It can't be, of course, the Gita Krishna says, of all the mountains, I am the Himalayas. But anyone who sees these beautiful things in this world cannot but experience Krishna. So that bliss that the Lord had when He thought of all of us experiencing Him by seeing beauty in the nature, beauty in the Virat Roop, that bliss made Him black. That bliss manifested in the form of Sham Varna. And that's the reason the Lord has that particular form. So now this is the lowest level of absorption in the Lord. So that means if you cannot absorb yourself in the higher aspects, at least this much you do. And this much anybody can do, isn't it? When you see the sun, for one moment can't we remember Krishna? It's the eyes of the Lord. When we see the moon, for one moment can't we think this is the eyes of the Lord? For when we drinking water, for one moment can't we think this is the taste of Krishna? When we are drinking some juice, mango juice and all that, the taste that we get, can't we just remember for one moment this is Krishna? So that one moment of thinking that this is Krishna is the Virat Roop, is the absorption in the Virat Roop. So whenever you go in the world, wherever you go in the world, if you ever see that kind of thought process, like for example, Gaur Kishodas Babaji Maharaj, he saw a train, and when he saw the train, he became mad in ecstasy because he saw that the front engine is Krishna and all the bogies are gopis running behind Krishna. And he said he became ecstatic with this thought. Now you and me see train all the time, Do we ever get a thought like this? The great devotees of the Lord, they know how to think of Krishna in nothing, from absolutely nothing, which apparently for a common man it's nothing. But for the great devotees, they know how to absorb themselves in the Lord. And that is how they train their eyes. That is how they train their vision. And that is how they train their mind. So this is the first level. The second level of absorption is thinking about how the Lord is nurturing us through so many ways. So we'll just chant this verse. Ata kavir nama suyavad artha shad apramato vyavasaya buddhi siddhi nyarthartena yate tatra Parishramam tatra samikshamaanaha. So Shukadeva Goswami is saying, for this reason, the enlightened person should endeavor only for the minimum necessities of life, while in the world of names. He should be intelligently fixed and never endeavor for unwanted things, being competent to perceive practically that all such endeavors are merely hard labor for nothing. Shukadeva Goswami brings out series of beautiful analogies after this. And he is telling us something amazingly interesting, simple stuff. He says, when there are, when the earths are flat, when there are flat surfaces on earth, he's asking, why do you need cots and beds? When you have your own arms, why do you need pillows? When you're having palms of your hands, why do you need utensils? When you have skins of trees all around us, why do you need clothing? So he says, don't trees give charity? Are rivers dried up? Are the mountains caves closed? Does the Lord not protect the surrendered soul? Why then are we flattering proud rich people? Now, this is a verse. I'm going to help you all see the interpretation of this from a little practical point of view. Obviously, if you study the Bhagavatam has two ways of being studied. There is a very intense way of studying Bhagavatam. When we were just coming to the path of Krishna consciousness, we got trained in the intense way of studying Bhagavatam. If I had to be giving a lecture on this verse in the intense way, all of you would run away from here. But this is one of the heaviest verses of Bhagavatam. This verse is literally telling us that you're wasting your time doing all the nonsense things in this world. But I would look at a more practical approach towards seeing this verse and a more realistic approach considering our situation, that we need beds, we need clothes, we need a place to stay, we need stuff. Considering that, let's look at a more practical approach towards this particular verse and the vision that Shukadeva Goswami is trying to share with Parikshit Maharaj. What he's essentially trying to say is something very simple. You don't have to worry so much about your basic needs of life. All your basic needs will be taken care by the Lord. Don't stress yourself. Don't take so much of anxiety that, oh, what will happen to me? Nothing will happen to you. You'll be fine. See, we all have created an artificial pressure for ourselves of what it means to live a comfortable life. We all have created an artificial pressure for ourselves to think about how much I need to survive in this world. Actually, the fact is, we don't need much to survive in this world. There is enough for every man's need, but not enough for even one man's greed. Isn't it? There is enough for every person's need. Look at elephants. Every day they eat at least 150 kilos. Have you ever thought of and seen an elephant stressed out, thinking that where will I get tomorrow 150 kilos? Have you ever seen the elephant becoming thin out of stress? Where will I get tomorrow 150 kilos? I mean, in your entire year, I don't think you'll eat 150 kilos. The guy eats in one day. We probably will take, like, say, 6 months to eat 150 kilos, right? The elephant eats in one day 150 kilos. The whale, God knows how many kilos the whale is eating, So the Lord provides for everyone. We don't have to be stressed out. The only thing that we need to have is a faith that the Lord provides. The problem with a lot of us is that most of us think our provision comes from our employer. Your employer doesn't provide you. Ultimately, the Lord only provides you. The employer is just an instrument, isn't it? So if one instrument doesn't work, some other instrument will come. There's no end to, there's no dearth of instruments of the Lord, isn't it? There are hundreds of instruments the Lord can use to provide you for your daily needs. And even if there is no instrument work, go to the forest. There are ample trees over there. I remember many years back I was reading this beautiful book named Radha Damodar Vilas, one of my favorite books, the first volume. And while I was reading that, I was very young at that time. I was probably about 20 or 21. I read this book, and I was amazed when I read this book because while reading this book, I read a section where these devotees are going from cities to city to preach. They have no source of income, no source of money, nothing. They're just going from city to city preaching. And on one particular day, they're going to preach to some place, and they're driving this jeep or truck or something, and they're traveling. And on the highway, they come across an apple tree, right on the highway. They stop the car, they get down, pluck apples, and they're eating. And before eating, one devotee says, "Oh, we must offer it to Krishna." They set up an altar below the apple tree, and they offer the full apple tree to Krishna. And their thought is, every person who passes under this apple tree, whatever apples they eat, will get Mahaprasad of Krishna. I was so touched by that story. I said, "Oh my God, if the whole world thinks like this, what an easy world would have been, isn't it?" I mean, we just are so much stressed out with the thing, where will I get my next meal? Look at these devotees just living such simple lives. And of course, I'm not recommending that, but I'm just saying that the way of looking at life and the needs, it's different depending on how you really look at it. If you look at it from the point of view of Krishna as our provider, there is no dearth only. There is no dearth of resources. There is no dearth of things that Krishna provides. And even in our own lives, if you see, do we really use all that we have, all the money that we have, all the resources that we have? Do we really use it? Hardly a fraction of that we really use on a day-to-day basis. Most of it we store thinking that someday it will be useful. And many times it's not used for years together, isn't it? There was a very beautiful story of a person named Govinda Swami, which I'll share just to help us understand how Krishna provides us. So this Govinda Swami, he was a wonderful person, but he had a strong desire in his heart to become a king and to enjoy royal luxuries, basically. He wanted to experience all the brands of this world. He wanted to experience, the most luxurious life. Somehow he had this desire. One day he happened to go to a lecture of Krishna Leela. So he was hearing a Krishna Leela. And the orator the speaker was talking about Ras Leela, that particular lecture. And he was speaking about how there was one Krishna and 500,000 gopis. And how Krishna was enjoying this Ras Leela with these 500,000 gopis. And this Govinda Swami, who heard it, he obviously was not exactly in the right consciousness, the right mood. He was thinking, wow, look at this Krishna enjoying with 500,000 gopis, he's thinking that what must be the experience if of Ras Leela, I wish I could just be there and see what happens in Ras Leela. So like this, he was having these thoughts, and one day he met this very wise sage. And he told the sage about this desire of his to, experience the Ras Leela. The sage told him, see, it is not a physical, mundane boy-girl activity. It is a very evolved and highly elevated activity. This is actually the exchange between the Jivatma and Paramatma. They're having an exchange between each other. And so he says the only way you can experience Ras Leela is if you surrender to the feet of the Supreme Lord. So Govinda Swami, he just had this thought in his mind. Obviously, he was not able to process what the philosophy the sage was saying. But he decided, I want to see Ras Leela. He did intense tapasya, very, very intense tapasya. And finally, the Supreme Lord Krishna appeared in front of him. after years of doing tapasya. So the moment Krishna appeared in front of him, Krishna called him, "Oh my child, Govinda Swami, please tell me what you want." The moment Govinda Swami saw Krishna, he forgot all his desires. He said, "I want moksha. I want liberation. I want to go back to the spiritual world." So Krishna asked him, "So, you don't want to see Ras Leela?" He said, "I don't want anything. I only want to go back to the spiritual world." Krishna said, "See, first I will show you Ras Leela." Krishna held his hand, took him, and took him to the place where he performed the Ras Leela. He made him sit and watch the entire Ras Leela performance. And after Govinda Swami saw that, he was just so amazed to experience the Ras Leela of Krishna. Then he asked Krishna, "Krishna, can I now go back to the spiritual world?" Krishna said, No, wait a minute. You have one more desire. You wanted to become a king, right? I'll make you a king now." And Krishna made him a king. And this man became a powerful king with a huge empire, so much of luxury, so much of opulences. And then finally, after he enjoyed kingship and all that opulence, then finally the Lord told him, "Come, now you come with me to the spiritual world." So the Lord is known by many names. And one of the names in which the Lord is known, he is known as Krita Kritaha. The word Krita means, it refers to the fruits of this world. And the word Akrita means the fruits of the spiritual world. So the Lord is called Krita Akrita. That means he gives his devotees the fruits of this world and the other world. So he fulfills the desires of the devotees in this world and the other world. So essentially, if you have any desire, Krishna will fulfill it. For sure. Obviously, it may not have happened in the exactly sequence in which you desire it, but he will fulfill it. Because Krishna is so much concerned about every desire of ours. And therefore, we should be very careful with what desires we have. Of course, it also shows how much Krishna can offer us. So, if we ever have any desire in this world, we don't have to run around here and there asking this devata, this person, that person. Just express to our Father and He'll take care of it. Of course, it may not happen in the exact timeline that we are looking for, but He will eventually take care of it. So, first level of absorption in Krishna is when we see that Krishna is everywhere, all around us. He is in the form of this Virat Roop that is manifesting all over the world. The second way of looking at Krishna is the person who provides us everything we need. Whatever we ever need in our life is provided by Krishna only. And when we recognize the fact that Krishna is providing us, we can absorb ourselves faster in Him. And the third level of absorption in Krishna is that Krishna is within us as a Paramatma. There's a very beautiful verse which describes the Paramatma, the size of the Paramatma. It is explained. So this is the particular verse, the 8th verse of the second canto, second chapter, where it is spoken about the size of the Paramatma. So if you see here, this particular verse, it says, "Chaturbhujam Kanja Ratnanga Shank Gadadhara Dharanaya Smaranti." So this verse essentially describes the Paramatma which is there in our own hearts. So the description that is there is that the Paramatma is residing in the region of our heart. The second description is that the size of the Paramatma is 8 inches. That's the size of the Paramatma that is given. Angushta Moolam. If you hold a thumb like this is the size of the Paramatma in our hearts. And then he says that he is carrying, he has 4 hands carrying these 4 things. Kanja Rathanga Shanka Gada. He is holding the Shanka Chakra Gada and Padma. And his mouth his lips are smiling. Joyful expression on his lips. His eyes are like lotus petals. He's wearing garments that are yellowish like the saffron of Kadamba trees. He's wearing ornaments made of gold set with jewels. He's having a headgear which is glowing with earrings. He has his lotus feet are on the lotus hearts of the mystics. On his chest is a Kaustuba jewel engraved with a beautiful calf. There are other jewels on his shoulders. The torso of the Lord is garlanded with fresh, beautiful flowers. He is ornamented about his waist. There are rings on his fingers. There are leglets, bangles. His hair is oiled and with a bluish tint. He has a beautiful smiling face. And inside, the Lord is standing there, waiting for us to turn inwards towards Him. The word that is used over here is dharanaya. So the word dharana means absorption. He is waiting for us to turn towards Him and absorb ourselves in Him. Now, this description that I just gave you all of the Paramatma is the exact description of Paramatma in all our hearts. So imagine, Krishna is sitting right inside our hearts, well dressed, opulently dressed. He's just waiting for us to turn towards Him. And unfortunately, we are turning all over the world, looking everywhere else, except going inwards, basically. So we don't even have to go outside. Look at the Virat Rupa outside. Look at how Krishna is providing outside. He is sitting right inside. That's what the third level of absorption is. Shantanu Maharaj was a great king who had a very supernatural power. So he had the power that whoever he touches with his hands, that person becomes young. So his son Devavrata asked him, "Father, how did you get such power?" And Shantanu said, "Every day I meditate on Badri Narayanan, who is sitting in Badrinath, and I drink the water that has washed his feet." So Shantanu told his son that simply by meditating on Badri Narayan, who is sitting in our own hearts also, anybody can get all these powers. So Devavrat said, "You said that you are meditating on Badri Narayan. Who is meditating?" So Devavrat said, "Who is he meditating on?" So you are meditating on Badri Narayan, but Badri Narayan also is meditating. So who is he meditating on? So Shantanu said, rather than answering this question, let me tell you a story. And the story will give you the answer. So he said, many years back, Narad Muni had the same question. Narad Muni went to Lord Narayan and he asked him, "We meditate on you. All living entities meditate on you. But whom do you meditate on?" So when Narad Muni asked Badri Narayan this question, the Lord told Narad Muni, "If you want the answer to this question, go to this island named Shwetadweep. And all the people in Shwetadweep are meditating on one person. I am also meditating on that same person." So Narad Muni went to Shwetadweep. And he was amazed by the divine fragrance of Shwetadweep. And he saw all the people there were so radiant and effulgent. And they were engaged in such spiritual activities. So Narad Muni inquired from all of those people in Shwetadweep, "Who are you meditating on?" They told him, "We are meditating on Badri Narayan." So Narad Muni was really confused. Badri Narayan tells me, "Go to Shwetadweep, and whoever all those people are meditating on, that's whom I am meditating on." But when he comes to Shwetadweep, all of them are telling him that they are meditating on Badri Narayan only. So does it mean that Badri Narayan is meditating on Badri Narayan only? So Narad Muni went back to Badri Narayan and asked him, "Whom are you meditating on? Are you meditating on yourself?" The Lord said, "Yes." He said, "All of you all are meditating on me because I am the source of all of you. But because I have no source, I have to meditate on myself only." So the Lord, He is sitting as Badri Narayan in the Himalayas in Badrinath, and if you see Him sitting in this yogic posture, Naranarayan Rishi, and meditating, Whom is he meditating on? He's meditating on himself only. So the whole idea of Paramatma. So obviously now when Devavrata heard this story by Shantanu Maharaj, he was amazed by this story, and Devavrata told Shantanu Maharaj that thank you very much for telling this story, and now I know whom to meditate on. And from that point onwards, Devavrata became a great yogi, started meditating, and eventually that Devavrata became Bhishma, perfected his life by the process of yoga, by the process of the Paramatma meditation, basically. And eventually, he tells the same story to Yudhishthir Maharaj when he comes to him, on the bed of arrows. He tells this story to Yudhishthir about meditation on the Paramatma. So all of us, so we begin by meditation on the Virat Roop, the external aspects of the Lord. Then we meditate on the Lord as a provider who has given us everything that we have in this world. And then we meditate on the Lord as a Paramatma within our own hearts. And then Shukadeva Goswami goes on to talk about how one should meditate on the Lord who is providing us with everything. But don't just meditate on Him as a provider, as a powerhouse of creator of everything, or as a Paramatma within your heart, but start falling in love with Him as a person. And that is a very, very important aspect of completing our absorption. Akama sarva kamo va moksha kama udaradi tivrena bhakti yogena yajeta purusham param. So Shukadeva Goswami is telling Parikshit that for those who are wandering in this material world, there is no more auspicious means of deliverance than direct devotional service to the Lord. And he says, great personalities like Brahma, they concentrate their mind. And Shukadeva Goswami says, Brahma studied the Vedas 3 times. And after scrutinizingly examining the Vedas 3 times, he ascertained that worshipping and attraction to Krishna is the highest form of religion. So Brahma studied Vedas 3 times. And after studying Vedas scrutinizingly 3 times, he concluded that worshipping Krishna is the topmost thing. Now you and I don't have to study Vedas 3 times. We don't even have to study once. Brahma has done that job for us. And the end of all his research is on taking shelter of Krishna and worshipping him. And therefore, it is essential that every human being completely focuses on this. So it says, Akama sarva kamova. Whether a person has all material desires, or he has no material desires, or he is moksha kama udaradi, he is seeking moksha, he is seeking liberation. Tivrena bhakti yogena. So he says, all these persons must intensely practice bhakti yoga. Yajeta purusham param. So this word tivrena is a very important word. The word tivrena means it is bhakti yoga should not be practiced wishy-washy. That means little here, little there. That's not the way we should practice devotion. We should practice it intensely. There has to be an intensity in our practice. Now, if you go to the Western world, you'll find something very, very striking. It's very difficult for people in the Western world to take up Krishna consciousness because there is so much of material facilities there. But if any one person takes up Krishna consciousness, they take up intensely. That's the difference between people who practice Krishna consciousness in the land of India and the people who practice Krishna consciousness in the land of the West, land in the Western world. In India, we practice Krishna consciousness in a wishy-washy way. We do other stuff and Krishna consciousness also. But in the Western world, when someone takes up the path of Krishna consciousness, either they take it fully or they don't take it at all. So they're very intense about it. Tivrena. And that's why it is so amazing to see the spirit with which they take up Krishna consciousness. They just drop everything. I don't know how many of you all heard of Tamal Krishna Maharaj. A very exalted devotee. His name is Tamal Krishna Maharaj. He was one of Prabhupada's most powerful people. When he would preach, It's unbelievable how he would preach. And what kind of Shakti he had to preach, and what kind of conviction he had to preach. He would spend 1 hour with a person. So, there were two devotees, Vishnujan Maharaj and Tamal Krishna Maharaj. They were a team and they preached together. So, Vishnujan Maharaj was a Gandharva. When he would sing, people would just stop walking, just stand and just hear him sing. So, he would sit in a garden and start singing. And hundreds of people would just gather around him, just to see who this person is singing, like a Gandharva. Prabhupada called him a Gandharva. And when Tamal Krishna Maharaj would see these hundreds of people gathering around him, he would go around, walking in circles around this kirtan. And he would look at people's faces. And just by looking at somebody's face, he would know whether this person is going to become a devotee or no. And if you see someone very intense and he's sure that he's going to become a devotee, he would catch him and take him aside and preach to him for 1 hour. And in 1 hour, that guy will give up he will give up his job, he will give up his family, he will give up everything and join the temple. 1 hour. 1 hour. 1 hour of preaching, that's all. Imagine, there was one guy who was very eager to join, and very eager to become a part of the Hare Krishna movement. But he told Tamal Krishna Maharaj, see, I want to join. But I have 2 movie tickets for watching one last movie. I'll just go last time, I'll watch this movie with my girlfriend, I'll come back and join. Tamal Krishna Maharaj took his tickets, tore it. Ho gaya, khatam. That fellow quietly joined. So this whole idea of Tivrena is something that all of us have to develop in our hearts. How eager, how intense is our desire to practice spiritual life? How intense am I wanting to practice Krishna consciousness? That's what the whole idea of Tivrena is. And for us to develop the Tivra Bhakti, we also have to learn to develop love for Krishna. In the Mahabharata, there is a conversation between Sahadev and Bhima. And, in this conversation, Sahadev was telling Bhima that in this world, no one can hate their father. Someone may act that they're hating their father, but internally they know very well our father is our true well-wisher. And Sahadev gives 2 reasons why we cannot hate our father. First, we come from him. So we're carrying his genes. We can't hate someone whom we are born from. And he says, second, at the end of life, everybody knows very well that the only true well-wisher that we have in our life is our father. So Bhima immediately he raises a point. He says, if someone can't hate their maternal father, their material father their material father who was given birth to them, how come Kamsa hated his spiritual father Krishna? How can Kamsa hate the father of the universe? If you say that no one can really hate one's father, he made so many plans to kill Krishna. So Sahadev laughed. He said, don't you know the full story? Bhima said, what is the story? So Sahadev said, after this voice came from the sky, Kamsa got very angry, put Devaki in jail. And the anger continued. He kept sending demons one after another to kill Krishna. But that was his external behavior. But slowly, as he kept hearing the pastimes of Krishna, he started developing so much love for Krishna in his heart. So externally, he hated Krishna, but privately, he loved Krishna. And therefore, he says there are only 2 kinds of people in this world. Sahadev's conclusion. So there are one type of people is those who love and show their love explicitly towards Krishna. And the second type of people who show their hatred and anger explicitly, but internally they love Krishna. Nobody can hate Krishna. So the point is that, in this world, even if you come across atheists, even if you come across people who hate God, they will still remember God. They will still talk about God. They will still blaspheme God, but they can't avoid God. So no matter who you are, whether you are a theist, whether you love Krishna or you hate Krishna, you can't forget Krishna. So the choice that we have is that, either we choose to love him or we choose to hate him. But you cannot choose to forget him. And therefore might as well choose to love him. So the way Shukadeva Goswami is recommending Parikshit Maharaj to develop love for Krishna is by trying to, as much as possible, hear about Krishna by the association of pure devotees. So Shukadeva Goswami is recommending Parikshit Maharaj that in the association of pure devotees, you will start understanding and developing your love for Krishna. Because pure devotees of the Lord are called by a very interesting name. Of the many names that Krishna's devotees are called by, one of the names is Kavi. What is the meaning of the word Kavi? The word Kavi means, to explain what the meaning of the word Kavi is, let me tell you all a story. There was once a great devotee named Parashar Bhatta. So Parashar Bhatta has written this amazing commentary on the Vishnu Sahasranam called as Bhagavat Gunadarpanam. And he became a very celebrated, like a very famous, devotee. And all the Vaishnavas worshipped him like anything. And there was one particular devotee named Alavayan. So this Alavayan, he began to hate Parashar Bhatta. Somehow he became very envious of Parashar Bhatta. And one of the reasons he became envious of Parashar Bhatta was because Parashar Bhatta had the name of Vyasadev's father. Vyasadev's father's name was Parashar. So this Alavayan, he said, how can he have that name, Parashar? He is not qualified only to have such a name. And he said, I'll prove that he has no qualification to have a name like that, so exalted. So he said, he challenged him. He says, a rishi is a person who has divine eyes, right? So this devotee, he said, I'm going to bring something to you and I want you to tell me what is inside that pot. So he got a pot and he put inside that pot a snake. And he got that pot with a snake sealed out from outside. So obviously you won't know what is inside. He asked Parashar Bhatta, tell me what is inside this pot. If you tell me what is inside this pot, then I will believe that you are really a rishi and you're qualified to have that name Parashar. But if you don't tell me what is inside this pot, then you have to change your name. Parashar Bhatta looked at it and he said, inside this pot is an umbrella. This devotee, he said, I caught you. He opened it, there was a snake that came out. And he said, how can any fool, which fool will say umbrella is inside the pot? Can you put an umbrella inside the pot? Parashar Bhatta, he quoted a beautiful verse which spoke about how Ananta Shesh has so many ways in which he serves the Lord. So he says, when the Lord is walking, Ananta Shesh becomes the umbrella. When the Lord is sitting, Ananta Shesh becomes the throne. When the Lord is lying down, Ananta Shesh becomes the bed. When the Lord is standing, Ananta Shesh becomes the paduka. So he says, when I said there's an umbrella, I was talking about that Ananta Shesh. And this man, he became so stunned. He fell at the feet of Parashar Bhatta. He said, this person is really, really a rishi. So the word Kavi means that person who can see what others can't see. That's what the word Kavi means. So for us to have access to the Lord, for us to develop absorption in the Lord, we all need rishis. We need Kavis in our life who can help us see the Lord where normally people can't see. So when you look at Shukadeva Goswami, he is giving us these 4 levels on which how you can absorb yourself in Krishna. You can absorb yourself in the Virat Roop of the Lord, which is the external form of the Lord. You can absorb yourself in the Lord as a provider who's giving us everything. Whatever we see in our lives, it's come to us by the Lord only. And then we look at the Lord as a Paramatma within our own hearts. And finally, we look at the Lord as a person whom we can fall in love with. For all of this, we need the help of some Kavi, some Rishis, some great sages who can help us fall in love with Krishna. And this is what we can learn from these 3 chapters of the second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.